Hello, welcome to the How She Made It Summit, where we are talking about what it means to be a wealthy woman, and who is no better expert than Alicia Dunams. I am your host, Tiffany Scott. I am the founder of You Me She Collective, where I help women define their uniqueness so they can create their in-demand brand. And also I'm the founder of Sister Suppers, where we help you build community from within your homes. So today we have my dear friend Alicia Dunams, who is an international speaker and trainer who has coached thousands of business leaders, business owners, corporate, worldwide to write, publish, market their book around the world. She is also the founder of Bestseller in a Weekend, and you can see behind her that she has a book that she's about to launch that we're going to talk about, which is super exciting. So Alicia, thank you. I know you're being a busy woman. You've been traipsing around the world and the country, and I'm so glad that you could make it here and we can make this work. Please just give a little insight into who you are, what you do, and also what I really love to share is your amazing story as well.
Absolutely, Tiffany. Thank you so much for having me. And, what story doesn't have a lot of twists and turns? I can just tell you this, that the pathway to success is not a straight line. And to encapsulate all that I'm doing is takes a book, really, but we're going to condense it into a half an hour or less. So as you mentioned, this is my second book. And I'll tell you, this book is long overdue. I wrote my first book 11 years ago. And this book is a leadership book. I get to how using the right words can radically transform your life, relationships, and business. Now, my first book is called Goal Digger, Goal Digger, Lessons Learned from the Rich Men I Dated. And so it just shows that there has been obviously a long, tangly journey to where I am today. And I would say, the reason it's probably taken me so long to write a book is because when I wrote Goal Digger, I just was so excited. And we have really seen now, if you see the millennials and, even Generation Xers using hashtag Goal Digger. And when I wrote the book, that term wasn't being used. I actually Googled the term, and I bought golddigger.com. I saw, out of everything I saw on Google, there was like one t-shirt. I saw a woman selling out of San Diego that said Goal Digger on it. And I'm like, okay, well, it seems like this is a great brand to lean into. And I wrote the book. I utilized my experiences. I was a single mom. I still am officially a single mom. I always am tentative of using that term. We'll go into that later. But a single mom, and I started dating wealthy men, and I really turned it into an experience. And I want to share that story as well. But I do want to share. I'll start with that. So basically, being a single mom, I in my early 20s, I backpacked around the world. I fell in love. I got married, eloped. A year and a half later, he decided that this wasn't for him. And so as a single mom, I started my own business. At that time, it was a technical writing business, really taking my degree from UCLA and turning it into what I thought I could, an English major. And as I was being single and having a business and bought a house in Sacramento, I was dating. Obviously, I wanted to have some sort of partnership and love in my life. And I was meeting a lot of commitment phones. And I didn't seem to really connect in terms of finding the love. And so I went to a New Year's Eve party. This was probably 13, 14 years ago now. I went to a New Year's Eve party, and it was my mom's friend's daughter who was married to Eddie Murphy at the time. Her name is Nicole Murphy. And we were at the party, and my mom's friends got really drunk. And they were saying to me, Alicia, you work so hard. You do everything yourself. You should be married to a millionaire. That's what they said to me. And as they said it, I kind of looked over to Nicole, who was all fancy with her diamonds and everything. And she just looked at me, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a complete failure. Because they just kept on saying it. They're like, why are you doing it yourself? You could be married to a wealthy man. He could be wining and dining you, taking care of you. And so I drove home that night, and I picked up my daughter from the babysitter, and I drove into my garage, and I just started to cry. I was just felt like this ultimate failure. And I called my best friend and I'm just like, oh my goodness, you couldn't believe these women. They were going on and saying that I should be married to someone wealthy and I'm doing everything myself and why and why and why. And then at the end of that conversation, I just took a deep breath and I was living in Sacramento at the time. I said, and by the way, where does a single girl meet a millionaire in Sacramento anyways? So I had I laughed at myself a bit, but it was kind of this thing because I felt all alone and I was doing everything myself. And so a couple weeks later, I was working from home. I've been in business for 16 years. And at that time, it was only a few years. And I was watching the Dr. Phil show. And on the show, he had all of these gold diggers. So women who only dated men for money. And I was sitting and watching it, and there was a woman in the front row, and I'll just say her name. Her name is Patty Stanger, but it was before she was the millionaire maker. She was just had her own matchmaking agency. And she goes, "You women have it all wrong. Wealthy men don't want to be with gold diggers. They want to be with women who are accomplished, who are taking care of themselves, who are intelligent. And I have an agency that will attract those type of men with those type of women." So it was kind of that answer to that question, because I was really in that query of maybe that is the direction. Maybe that is the solution to my problems. So I put in my pictures in a snail mail envelope. I sent it off. And a couple of weeks later, Patty called me on the phone. Patty Stanger, who's now the millionaire matchmaker. And so I flew down to LA. I was being wined and dined. And I realized I didn't want to marry any of these men. I didn't want to marry someone because they had money. I wanted to create the success for myself. And it really took one of the first men I dated who asked me, what have you done? Who are you? And I said, well, I backpacked around the world a couple times. I have a house. I have a business. I'm a single mom. I'm doing all these things. And he leaned over to me and he said, Alicia, you are industrious enough to be your own millionaire. And that was really, I would say, the lightning strike that ignited the forest fire. And I wrote the book, and I started the tour, and I did all these things. And then it all came to an abrupt halt. So in 2007, when I launched the book, so that's 11 years ago, and I started writing the book, maybe 2 years before that. I started dating millionaires, 3 to 5 years before that. I was invited to be on Oprah and Friends Radio, which is like a big deal. A new author flying to New York to be on Oprah and Friends Radio. And I was interviewed by Gene Chatsky, who was the Today Money contributor and a big financial expert in the media. And as I walked in, at that time I had long hair and a ponytail and my wrap dress on. And as I walked in, I just noticed a very cold reception. And as we got into the interview, I just said, this is definitely going to go in the wrong direction. And I felt it. And she said, well, why did you decide to write this book? And, I shared all the speaking points working with my publicist at the time. And she goes, did any of these men give you money? And I wasn't prepared for that. And indeed, it did happen. I dated a man for a year. And he wanted me to travel with him. And I said, hey, I can't travel. I got a daughter. I got things to do. I have my business to work on. He goes, well, I'll help you out because I want you to travel with me. And so that doesn't really fit in a soundbite. I can't say, well, I met this guy. He said, that doesn't. So I just said yes. I said the word yes. And I just immediately felt the conversation change. And she goes, oh, well, you sound like a working girl to me. So I walked out of that interview and I thought, never again, done. This is done. Never will I submit myself to that. I have a 4 or 5 year old daughter at the time. No, not going to do that. So I stopped promoting my book. I stopped everything. No hash. There wasn't even hashtags at that time. Like the whole gold digger movement that I feel. I was the first person to write the book. If you go on Amazon, there's like 1,000 books now. I was the first person to write the book and really start this kind of movement. And I stopped it. Now, so really, I just said, okay, I'm going to go all business. And I did. I went all business. I started a women's conference called Wealthy Girl Summit. I had a couple last year in Los Angeles. And I started my book writing business from that, because out of that Wealthy Girl Summit, where I had like Laura Langmeyer and Christine Comerford and Marcy Shimoff, Tiffany Bass-Bucko of MissMoney.com, I had all these amazing experts in female entrepreneurship, wealth creation, etc. After that, I did that summit and I said, okay, what's next for me? And so the speakers one by one were coming up to me and having individual conversations, asking me to help them write their book. And that's where we are today, where I have Bestseller of the Weekend, and I've been supporting people in writing books for 11 years now, and finally getting back on the horse with my book called I Get To.
Thank you. I love hearing that story again, because there's so many ahas and awakenings around how it's so easy to judge someone. And you know, as a young single mom, you were on the journey of self-discovery, and there's many women that do want to marry a millionaire, and so be it. That's okay with them. What do you think, you know, having someone judge you so like on public radio like that, what do you feel like was your biggest lesson from being basically victimized like that?
Is that actually that was a gift. That's my biggest lesson. So Gene Chatsky didn't shut me down. I shut myself down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my biggest lesson. Because when I walked out the room and said, no more, I'm shutting this off, and I dimmed my light, she didn't dim my light. I dimmed my own light. And what I know, why I know that's one of the lessons, is I was teaching a course, my Bestseller on the Weekend course at a university last year, and I shared this story with the students, and the woman in the front row raised her hand and she said, Alicia, I'm glad she said that to you. And I go, why? And she said, because if she didn't say that to you, you wouldn't be here helping us. And so coming from 100% responsibility is something that I'm really just excited about and passionate about. And that's what I teach in my book, in my leadership trainings, is being 100% responsible moment by moment in life. I was 100% responsible for my response, how I responded to her in the moment, how I responded to her later. And no one can victimize you. You can victimize yourself. I mean, Dr. Phil says it a long time ago. He said, there's no such thing as victims, only volunteers. So that could be taken in a couple of ways. I mean, we can reframe that. Obviously, there are victims of abuse, victims of bondage, slavery. I mean, we can find all different types of victimization in the world. But as Viktor Frankl says in his book, A Man's Search for Meaning, is that we absolutely have our mind, and we can reframe every situation. Even if you are in a situation of victimization, how can you reframe that? How can you change your mindset where you take full responsibility? And it's a very tenuous, it's a very maybe controversial conversation. But Nelson Mandela, when he was in prison, he's like, my mind is free. And so even in whatever circumstance we are in life, we are bigger than our circumstances.
Yeah.
And so that was the lesson for me.
Yeah, what a beautiful gift, as you call it. And I love that book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. That was a life-changing book for me, because a man that can live through the concentration camps when Hitler was, you know, doing what he was doing, and have that mindset is just unbelievable. And Nelson Mandela, all of it. So let's talk about your book a little bit more, because, you know, I think that really is aligned with what we're talking about. You get to choose. Your mind is free. And I can see behind you, it says, you know, I don't have to, I get to, which is really beautiful. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So the cover of the book, as you said, it says, I have to, and then it's crossed out, I get to, and how changing your words really can transform your life. And the reason I say this, and I'm really passionate about word usage, is because when you say something like, for example, I can't, since this is a money summit, talking about money and finances and women empowerment, I can't afford that. When you say, I can't afford that, you are telling yourself and the universe that you can't afford it, that it is in misalignment, that it's not something, it's bigger than you, basically, that it's bigger than you. Instead, if you change your wording to say, I choose not to purchase this at this time. I choose not to purchase that service at this time. You are choosing. So it's a choice versus I can't to. It's a choice that I can, I just choose not to at this time. Some other wording ways we can do this, and I love an example I share in the book, is a woman who I found on LinkedIn. Actually, I was talking about my book, and I was talking about I get to, and she said, I had the most powerful I get to when I buried my daughter. She said, my daughter had leukemia, and the whole time we would talk about that she gets to have chemotherapy, that she gets to have the best medical treatment, that she gets to say goodbye. And the final get to was when the mom said, I get to bury my daughter. I was her mother. I was the only one. And when she said that was the most powerful reframe in her entire life. And when I heard that, I was just, how powerful it is to be able to reframe and any situation of our life. And so I have 40 principles throughout the book of just slight changes of wording that can completely change, transform your life and your relationships and your business. One thing I talk about is the collective we in the book, and how when you speak like to a colleague, or for example, and you say we instead of I, you create a collective solution versus a tribal me against you situation. So those are one of the examples, some of the examples I have in the book.
Oh, that's beautiful. I can't wait to read it. It's going to be so good. So we are talking about wealth, and what's been so beautiful about this whole series is wealth has encompassed not just money, so many things like our health, our spiritual connection, our overall well-being, our connecting with our intuition, our guides, like all of it. And also obviously how to create more abundance, what wealth means to what the different women as well has been really beautiful to really understand. And for the amount of time that I've known you, you really do show up as a wealthy woman in every single way. And I remember when you came and shared, again, your story to my community in LA, you were sharing the story about creating the Wealthy Woman Summit. And I loved the way that you shared how you reached out to all these people, right? These really well-known women, and you just got on the phone and you asked them. Because if you don't ask, you don't know. And I feel like that's a real through line for the way that you show up as well. You just continue to show up and ask. What would you say has been some of the pivotal moments in creating success in your career?
Absolutely. So it's all about being a master asker. Master asker, hashtag master asker. It is, as you mentioned, we feel it's like we almost say no to ourselves before we even make an opportunity for a yes. And I'm a big yes person. And I talk about yes in the book. And one of the concepts, yes if, not no because. So yes is a powerful tool for moving forward. It creates expansiveness. And when you ask someone, for example, I'm preparing the book tour for I Get To, and I saw on LinkedIn that another author had a sponsor for her entire book tour, and I'm like, why not? So I reached out to some corporate sponsors that I know, and it's this scary feeling that you're like, they're going to say no, or like it's like we're conditioned. Our subconscious mind wants to keep us small, wants to keep us safe, and anything that steps out of that is the potential for being hurt, being wounded, or dying. I mean, that's how our brain functions, our amygdala. And so I just reached out, and he got back to me. He's like, wow, this sounds amazing. So I had all this thing in my mind. They're going to say no, they're going to do that. And it's still in negotiation, but asking is really the pivot point, I would say, in terms of the pivot points in my success, is always me asking someone for support or for direction or for some sort of up level. And it's really what God is here is not going to take us there. What's going to take us there is asking others and asking in a certain way of being. So being humble and kind, acknowledging people, being supportive yourself, providing value. And when they see that this is your way of being, this is how you show up in the world, then absolutely they want to support. So all the times that I've like done things myself, because I'm definitely put on the backpack, and I'm like, I'm gonna climb the mountain by myself. But how about ask someone and take the helicopter up?
I love it. I love that. Master asker. It's such a good reminder, because so often we think it's a no before we even ask, and then we don't ask. So with you, you've experienced wealth from many different ways within your business. You have a super successful business. Your business is being re-energized and revised right now, which is really exciting. And you also experience wealth from men, like directly from men in relationships as well. So I'm really curious to know, like, for you, how do you define wealth? What does wealthy mean to you?
What wealth means to me is freedom. That's my value, is freedom. And then with freedom comes responsibility. So wealth means being able to do this Zoom right now with no pants on. Wealth means to be able to jump in the car and go to lunch with my girlfriend, which I'm about to do after this. Wealth means being able to go anywhere and do anything. And I am also very I want to hold space for sufficiency, which we met with Lynn Twist. Yes, the Soul of Money. So there is a scarcity, there's abundance, and there's sufficiency. So I'm not in a $10 million home. I rent a home on, close to the beach in Manhattan Beach. The homes are very expensive here. I rent. I own a place in Sacramento. I'm looking to buy another place now. Am I looking to buy a place where I am so stressed on a monthly basis to pay the mortgage? No, thank you. That's not freedom to me. And so wealth is choice. And so my goals are to live in a place that I want to live, but not be stressed out, because when it comes down to it, I mean, even people like Nicolas Cage and multi-millionaires end up in bankruptcy court because they've lived beyond their means. And so sufficiency is, I'm in a place right now, I'm removing clothes out of my life. I'm removing things. I'm having a select pieces of luggage and clothing that I wear over and over, and just getting rid of clutter. So that all goes back to a sense of freedom, being able to do what you want when you want. But if you feel you're not in that place right now, being able to reframe, because when I do speak for corporations, people are working 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. They're excited about their 2-week vacation. Absolutely. So when they come from this place of, I have to go to work, or, it's so busy, I'm stressed out. It's like, reframe that. There's some people who don't have a job.
Yeah.
There's people out there who don't have health insurance. The fact that you have health, I always share that I pay for my own health insurance, and a lot of people in corporate are thinking, wow, people are paying thousands of dollars a month for health insurance right now in the United States. Yeah. I know people paying $3,000 to $5,000 a month for health insurance. So that's like, I get to have health insurance, from my through my corporation. So it's all reframed. So you can reframe your life to create freedom moment by moment.
Yeah, I love that, and could not agree more. And there's just so many gold nuggets in there about clearing space, living within your means, all those sorts of things can create freedom, and it's unique and different for every person as well. Freedom can come in many different shapes and sizes, what feels right for you. Because some people can afford, $10,000 in rent a month and live, within their means, and some people can't. So whatever works for you, I think, is really, really important. So I know that you've got, we're going to be co-hosting Leanne Jacobs' event coming up, and then you've got Bestseller in a Weekend coming up. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So bestseller in a weekend, I have really been teaching this for 11 years. I've been coaching people on writing books through my book funnel program. I launched bestseller in a weekend 8 years ago, but it's been really a five-step strategy that I've been using to create book content quickly. And I've had thousands of people go through the bestseller in a weekend process, people who've gone on to become New York Times bestselling authors, go and speak at the United Nations. I just had someone launch her book TV appearances, the Today Show. I just had someone launch her book. She had like 400 people at her book launch party. And it's funny, I was talking to people how, because she launched a book, how she impacted them and inspired them that they can be their big self and they can write a book as well. So I've helped thousands of people through this process. It's an in-person event that I do. I have one coming up in Los Angeles, April 27th to 29th. So you write your book during the weekend. You get approximately 100-page draft book manuscript by the end of the weekend, your entire marketing strategy to become a bestseller on Amazon, and also your complete author building platform. So we start building your platform during the weekend. So it's a very comprehensive weekend workshop.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. So great. And I can't remember if we discussed this, but do you have a free gift to share?
I always have a free gift to share, but I had to think where it is. I know if you go to bestsellerinaweekend.com, there is a free ebook there, the 10 ways to make money with a book.
Ooh, that's a good one. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know I could talk to you all day, but it's so good. And by the way, she really doesn't have any pants on. It was the first thing she told me when she jumped on. I love it. I love it. And I love you. Thanks for showing up. And I look forward to seeing you in LA in a couple of weeks. And I look forward to what we're going to collaborate on in the future in the fall as well. So thank you for everything. Good luck with your book launch. I know it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Thanks, Alicia.
Oh, thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you.